When you think of Disney on TV, a few channels probably come to mind right away. There's ABC and the Disney Channel, of course. Maybe you think of ESPN, and if you're really tuned in, probably Freeform. But what if I told you that Disney also owns half of the History Channel and A&E? Yeah, that same History Channel that brought us Ancient Aliens and Pawn Stars, and the same A&E that went from broadcasting symphonies to Duck Dynasty. Those networks are part of Disney's media family, and the reason why is a story full of unexpected partnerships, rivalries, and believe it or not, a connection to Disney's Newsies. Hey, this is Synergy Loves Company, where we explore how Disney connects to everything so you can feel connected to Disney even when you can't be at the theme parks. I'm Eric, and this video is part one of a three-part series where we will uncover Disney's cable TV ties with the Hearst Corporation. Today, we're starting with A&E, the Arts and Entertainment Network, which launched in the early 1980s, but before A&E was even a thing, Hearst was already making waves in publishing, magazines, and eventually television. Hearst started in newspapers all the way back in the 1880s when William Randolph Hearst took over the San Francisco Examiner. He turned it into a sensation using bold headlines, sensational stories, and a whole lot of competition with his rival, Joseph Pulitzer. Yeah, the guy from the Pulitzer Prize. That rivalry even played a part in one of Disney's own films. Remember Newsies? That musical is based on the newsboy strike of 1899, when kids salesmen took to the streets of New York to protest the rising cost of Pulitzer and Hearst's newspapers. In the movie, though you never see him, Hearst is very much one of the villains of the story. And in real life, that strike forced him to back down. Over time, the Hearst Corporation grew far beyond newspapers. They became known for magazines like Cosmopolitan and Good Housekeeping, and by the mid-20th century, they were heavily involved in broadcast television, owning local TV and radio stations all over the country. So when cable television began to explode in the late 1970s and early 1980s, with HBO launching nationwide in 1972 and Ted Turner's TBS following not long after, Hearst was already pretty perfectly positioned to get in on that action. But they didn't want to go at it alone. In 1981, Hearst partnered with ABC to create something called the Alpha Repertory Television Service, or ARTS. The idea was to create a cable channel dedicated to arts programming, like classical music, theater, and fine arts. It was a noble goal, but there was one big problem. There wasn't much of an audience for it. Arts struggled right from the start. In fact, it had to share broadcast time with Nickelodeon just to stay alive. But this partnership between ABC and Hearst planted the seed for what would eventually become A&E. By 1984, things started to shift, and RCA and NBC were also running a struggling cable network of their own. It was called the Entertainment Channel, and it wasn't working. It probably wasn't as entertaining as they hoped it would be. So they were looking for a way out of the entertainment channel business. So that's when RCA and NBC joined forces with ABC and Hearst, merging the entertainment channel with arts. And from that merger, the Arts and Entertainment Network, or A&E, was born. It wasn't a guaranteed success. At this point, A&E was still very much of an experiment. It was airing programming that felt closer to PBS than anything like the networks we know today. But it was the start of something big. A&E was born out of compromise, a mix of ABC, Hearst, and NBC resources trying to carve out space in a cable landscape that was just starting to explode. But once the channel was up and running, the big question was, what exactly was A&E going to be? Because arts and entertainment sounds classy, but would audiences actually tune in for fine art on television? At first, the Arts and Entertainment Network really leaned on the arts part of the name. We're talking classical music concerts, fine arts documentaries, even operas and ballets on television. It was thoughtful programming, but let's be honest, in the world of cable TV, it wasn't exactly competing with HBO movies or ESPN sports. But that all started to change in 1987 when it started airing Biography. Now, Biography wasn't actually a brand new idea. It had actually started as a documentary series on broadcast television years earlier. It was like a syndicated thing. But on A&E, it found a new home and an audience that absolutely loved it. Each episode told the life story of someone fascinating, whether it was a historical figure or a celebrity, cultural icon. It was someone different every time. And this wasn't just filler programming. Biography became the flagship show for A&E. It gave the network credibility, and it pulled in viewers who might not have tuned in otherwise. And it was endlessly expandable. You could do episodes on politicians one week and musicians the next week, and then Hollywood stars. And you always had unlimited choices of people, fascinating people. For A&E, Biography was proof that there was room for smart, accessible storytelling on cable, and that audiences would actually show up for it. Around this time, A&E made another smart move, though one very different than Biography. They started to air reruns of Law and Order. You know, that crime procedural that already found success on NBC, but on A&E, it reached a whole new life. Law and Order reruns brought in consistent mainstream viewers, people who weren't necessarily looking for fine art, but definitely wanted a good crime drama to sink into, or maybe just a parking place where hours of Law and Order would just play and you could leave it on in the background. Even today, Law and Order and its many spin-offs always seem to be on some cable channel like 24/7, and we can thank A&E for that. And so A&E was doing pretty good with Biography and reruns of Law and Order, but in 1994 they launched a sister channel, the History Channel. The History Channel quickly became a household name when it launched. The History Channel carved out its niche with documentaries about World War II, like a lot of documentaries about World War II, but then like other major turning points in history as well. It wasn't flashy, but it resonated, especially with those history buffs. People tuned in and the channel quickly became a cable hit. The History Channel complemented A&E and gave the brand a recognizable, distinct branding that could stand alongside giants like Discovery or Viacom's MTV Nickelodeon empire. This was the turning point. A&E was no longer just some sort of like hodgepodge scrappy cable experiment. It had a full-on hit network under its umbrella. Suddenly, millions of households knew the A&E name, even if they were tuning in specifically for the History Channel. And hey, if you love tuning in to uncover these hidden Disney histories on Synergy Loves Company, I'd love it if you would support the channel and you could represent the community, because I've got some merch linked down in the description. It's a fun way to show off your love for Disney's hidden connections, and Synergy Loves Company will help me keep these deep dives coming. You should go check it out. By the mid-1990s, A&E was on solid ground. Biography was a hit, the History Channel had become a household name, and the network had finally moved beyond its artsy growing pains. But Disney still wasn't in the picture, like not yet. That all changed in 1995. At this point, Disney was led by CEO Michael Eisner, that larger-than-life executive who shaped modern Disney as we know it today. Eisner was known for thinking big, and in the mid-90s, he had his eyes on a massive opportunity. Disney made the bold move to purchase Capital Cities ABC, the powerhouse media company that owned the ABC television networks, along with a wide range of cable and broadcast assets. The deal was enormous, around $19 billion, making it one of the largest media acquisitions of the time. Now, when Disney bought Cap Cities ABC, they didn't just get the ABC network, they also inherited ABC's stake in A&E. And just like that, Disney was suddenly a part owner of A&E and the History Channel with their new partners Hearst. This moment is fascinating because it wasn't necessarily Disney's goal to get in the arts and entertainment business. They were primarily after ABC's broadcast network and ESPN, which was already part of the Cap Cities package. But through this deal, they also wound up with stakes in A&E and Lifetime, setting the stage for the Hearst partnership that still continues today. And here's a fun side note, that same Capital Cities ABC deal also gave Disney ownership of Deke Entertainment, the animation studio behind Inspector Gadget and a ton of other Saturday morning cartoons. And if you want to hear the whole story about Disney and Deke's connection and relationship and how Inspector Gadget became a Disney character, I've got a whole episode on that. I'll leave a link so you can check it out. All right, back to A&E. Once Disney stepped in, Hearst still remained a partner, and NBC still held a smaller share until 2012 when Comcast bought out NBC Universal, and then they sold their share back to Disney and Hearst, making it a true 50-50 partnership. But from the mid-90s forward, Disney was firmly in the A&E picture. And while Michael Eisner set the deal in motion, it's worth noting that another future Disney CEO was also playing a role here, Bob Iger. At the time, Iger was serving as president and COO of Capital Cities ABC, so when Disney made this acquisition, Iger came with the deal, setting him up for his eventual rise to CEO in the 2000s. By the time Disney officially owned A&E in the mid-90s, you might expect the company to put its fingerprints all over the network. After all, Disney was now a media giant on TV with ABC and ESPN and its own cable empire through the Disney Channel and beyond. But here's the surprising thing. Disney mostly left A&E alone. There wasn't much evidence of Mickey Mouse meddling in the programming. Instead, it seemed like Disney's attitude was simple. As long as A&E is successful, we don't need to interfere. And how did A&E keep themselves relevant and keep Disney from looking too closely over their shoulder? They made a bold pivot. In the 2000s, A&E dove headfirst into the reality TV boom. This was the era when reality TV was everywhere. Survivor, American Idol, Big Brother were dominating the ratings, and cable channels were eager to jump on board. A&E, which had once been the home of fine arts and cultural programming, transformed itself into a destination for gritty, larger-than-life reality shows. Think about this lineup: Storage Wars, Hoarders, Duck Dynasty, Dog the Bounty Hunter, The First 48, and even Live PD. These shows were dramatic, addictive, and very chaotic, but people kept watching, and it wasn't just random programming. The leadership at A&E, including Nancy Dubik and Jana Bennett, were skilled at spotting cultural trends. Dubik had already proven herself by turning a repackaged Modern Marvels episode into a series called Ice Road Truckers over on History Channel. And Bennett had previously transformed TLC into a lifestyle network for Discovery. Together, they leaned into the kind of programming that might have made early A&E founders shake their heads. But it was exactly what kept the network alive and profitable. And for Disney, this was perfect. A&E was pulling in audiences, generating revenue, and keeping itself relevant without requiring Disney's direct attention. So they were free to focus on their bigger properties like ABC and ESPN, and Pixar, and Marvel and Star Wars and eventually even 20th Century Fox. Well, A&E just thrived in its own little corner of the cable universe. And if you're enjoying the story of A&E and Disney with Hearst in the mix there, from all that fine arts to Duck Dynasty, give this video a like and share it with another Disney fan friend of yours. It's one of the best ways to help more people find this channel. And while you're at it, click that subscribe button. After all the pivots and mergers and reality TV shows and experiments, the network is still around and Disney still owns half of it. So let's take a look at where things stand now. In its Disney era, the A&E Networks umbrella has grown far beyond the little arts experiment from the 1980s. Today it includes A&E, History Channel, History en Español, Lifetime, the Lifetime Movie Network, FYI, military history, crime and investigation. It's a diverse slate ranging from true crime to scripted dramas and docuseries, and it's all still co-owned by Disney and Hearst. Each holds a 50% stake, making them equal partners in the US. Now, the Fox acquisition in 2019 forced Disney to divest some of A&E's international channels, but here in the United States, the partnership remains strong. For Hearst, it's one of their crown jewels in modern media. And for Disney, it's still something of a quiet background investment, and that's what makes this story so interesting. Disney has Marvel and Star Wars and Pixar and Hulu, at least for a little while longer, ESPN, and then tucked away in its portfolio, they have half of A&E. It's the piece of Disney's cable empire that most fans have forgotten about. But that shows us just how far the company's reach really extends. And the best part, this is just the beginning, because Disney's partnership with Hearst doesn't stop at A&E. In fact, there's a channel that is part of Disney and Hearst's A&E Global Media Networks that Disney has taken more of a direct interest in. One that reshaped television for women and became that asset to Disney's synergy machine. In the next episode of this series, we'll take a look at how the two companies, Disney and Hearst, built Lifetime. And then we'll wrap with ESPN, which may be the single most important network in Disney's entire portfolio. And yep, Hearst has their hands on it too. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit like and share it with that other Disney fan friend of yours, someone who loves the hidden corners of Disney history just like us. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next part of the Hearst series. And if you want to help support the channel directly, check out that merch shop. It's at shop.synergylovescompany.com. Just look for the link down in the description. And remember, sometimes the most magical Disney experiences happen all around you. You just need to know where to look or what channel to click to. Until next time, keep discovering the magic in everything.